I'm going to talk about, being shy, or being an introvert, or being highly sensitive. You may suffer from one or the other. Maybe to you they're all the same. To me, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the fact that there are certain things that you wish you could do or participate in that for whatever reason hold you back from pursuing. And I find that if you can overcome this one thing, if you can overcome this one thing, then at least you've given yourself a chance of getting out of your so-called shell. And that one thing is being able to overcome your own fears, whether they're real or imagined. A lot of the times we're in our own head and we're imagining scenarios that have not taken place that prevent us from moving forward. And that's one of our biggest obstacles, to tell ourselves that we can't let these thoughts interfere with our happiness, our wanting to do things that in your mind you want to do because others are doing it, or because there is someone that you're interested in that you want to be able to either be their friend or have a relationship with them. But for whatever reason, fear gets in the way. Your own fears, whether they're, as I said, something that you are terrified would happen and you don't want to find yourself in that situation because you won't know how to handle it, or you look weak, which is another one. I mean, the feeling of weakness in front of others, to see us in that way is terrifying. And so we are afraid to do anything that will reveal the you, quote unquote, that's hidden behind this mask that you put in front, and a mask that you put for others, that you wear for others. So fear is the one thing that stops you from doing the things that you know you can do, or maybe you're not sure if you can. But sometimes there are things that we can do. For example, you could be in a class and know the answer to something, and for fear of drawing attention, you won't raise your hand. And you may think, oh, well, that's just a small little thing. Well, no, that small little thing will carry over to later on in life for a lot of things, because you'll be afraid to speak your mind in public for fear of whatever it is you think is going to happen. And what you have to realize is, what is the worst thing that can happen? What is the worst thing that can happen if I pursue this thing? How bad can it possibly be? Can I survive it? Because what's happening is that your life is passing you by. And next thing you know, a year, then it's 5 years, then it's 10 years, then it's 20 years. They've gone by. And you're still in your head. And what you develop is bitterness, maybe, anger, for no apparent reason. Because you chose. Remember, it's in your power to choose your future. Now, I know there's a lot of, the positive thinking and all that's going on around, but that has nothing to do with positive thinking. This is just common sense. When you go to bed and you get up in the morning, it's up to you whether you want to or not, have breakfast. You have to get out of bed. If you want to go out somewhere, you have to take action. And that's why that's something that you have the power to do. So you get ridiculed. By whom? Who are these people that are ridiculing you? Now, it goes without saying that, in family dynamics is very complicated and no one can give you advice on this. Only you know the circumstances. And you can handle a situation to the best of your ability in a very diplomatic way. There's no need to get into fights, into arguments. They don't achieve anything because usually the other person is set on their ways, just like you are set in your ways. Remember, when you're asking somebody else to change their ways, stop for a second and say, I'm asking somebody to change their ways when I myself am unable to change my ways, which brings me to habits. We get into the habit, we get into a comfortable groove, and we refuse to try something new. Try to get out of our own comfort zone. In order to improve on your physical fitness, you have to exercise. And how do you go about that? Let's say, for example, you're trying to run a mile and you've never run a mile before. And you go on your own and you go and you do let's say you're on a track and a mile approximately is 4 laps. So you go and you start to run. So the first lap, what you do, because you don't know any better, you run as fast as you can. Halfway around the first lap, you're practically out of breath. And you're lucky if you make it to the end of the first lap. Now, what's the problem here? The problem is that you didn't account for the fact that you have to do 4 laps. It's not a race of 1 lap. It's a race of 4 laps. So you have to pace yourself. Right? You started too fast. You have to learn to pace yourself. What does that have to do with getting out of my shyness or my being highly sensitive or an introvert or any of these or a combination of these or however you want to put it? But it boils down to fear stopping you from pursuing what it is that you want to pursue. That is going to make you happy, because at this point you are unhappy with your current situation. So, just like the 1 mile where you went ahead and you weren't in shape for it, and you go at full speed the first lap and didn't account for the other 3 laps that you still have to do. It's the same with dealing with fear. It's not going to happen on your first attempt. You have to learn in a way to pace yourself. And how do you do that? You start small. So if your biggest fear is crowds, the first thing you need to do is to get out, right? And find yourself in a place with crowds. Whether that's groups, for example, like, meetup groups or social events. You force yourself to do it and know full well that you're in training. And the more you do it, the less you start to lessen this fear of it, because you're becoming to accept this is part of your life. If you have trouble speaking to people, you can certainly go to a supermarket and ask where such and such product is located in the store. You can start asking for directions from strangers. You start to do it. You have to do it. It can't be in your head. You actually have to do it. You have to put it into action. You have to crawl before you walk. You have to crawl, then you have to walk before you can run. And before you can go around and do 1 mile, you have to learn how to pace yourself. That means you have to run at a pace that you're comfortable with to complete the 4 laps. And when you complete them, you'll probably be so tired, and the next day your body will be hurting. And you'll take, for example, rest the following day. But then you come back on that other day, which you do not, on the 3rd day, you come back to the track to run your 4 laps, and you don't want to do it. You force yourself to get dressed and to go to the track. And once you're at the track, you start to run, to pace yourself for the 4 laps. And if you can't do it because your legs or your muscles or whatever in your head is preventing you from doing it, then you walk and run. You walk, but you do your 4 laps. You teach yourself through action that you can do it. That when you set your mind to do something, you will see it to completion, however that may be. And so it is with fear. To overcome fear, you have to face the problem. If people around you are putting you down, you have the option of walking away and never being around that group again. If they're not family. Family is a little bit more complicated. But if these are so-called friends who are disrespecting you and you are feeling bad, you have control over your environment. And you can walk away. And if you're afraid to cause a scene in front of them, then what you could do is laugh it off. And the next time they contact you, don't answer. Don't meet with them. Find as many excuses as you can, but don't meet with them. Because you're not out to live your life to feel bad. And if you can control the people the people and the environment that makes you feel bad, by removing that, by not being part of that, by not participating in that, then you're taking action in a positive way. You have the power. You have the power. Nobody is putting a gun to your head and forcing you to do that. And even if somebody put a gun to your head, you have the option still. You take the risk and consequences for your own actions. It's your responsibility. So, what's happening to you now is a result of what you are choosing to let happen. Again, I am not telling you be obnoxious or aggressive or antisocial. I'm just, explaining to you that you can shape what you do throughout the day, who you choose to see during weekends, where you choose to be on your time off, where you work. If you're not happy with where you're at with your work, you can start looking for a job elsewhere that can improve how you feel about yourself. Anyway, I think this is a much more complicated thing, and you really do have to work on it. It's not something that's going to magically disappear on its own without you taking steps. Write down the five things, that's it, 5 things that you want to accomplish. And if you can get 3 done each day, that's an accomplishment. It's no different than running 4 laps. Since I'm on 4, let's do 4 things. 4 things that you want to do the next day. Or today. Do you understand? You have to value who you are. There's only one you, and there will only be one you. There's not another person like you. Bringing it back to the social settings, where you fear social interaction. And, let's say talking. You could get on the phone and talk to somebody. Nobody does this anymore. Get on the phone and talk to people. Say, I'm not texting anymore. You want to say something to me? Call me. Talk on the phone. However uncomfortable it is, talk. How is the weather? How are you doing? What are you doing? Force yourself to talk. Don't put yourself down. Anyway, if this has been of help, hit that like button or leave me a comment. This is serious, This is not something to ignore. You cannot ignore it. You cannot afford to ignore it. Anyway, thank you for listening.